Good evening, everyone. Whenever I call your name, if you'll please say here. Regent Crum.
Here.
Vice Chair Draghi.
Here.
Secretary Hartenberger.
Here.
Regent Marvel.
Here.
Chair Sanchez.
Here.
Chair Sanchez. Okay, thank you. Regent Shelton.
Here.
Regent Starkey.
Here.
Regent Stutska.
I just heard from him, and he said that he just received his second shot and he's not feeling well, so he's not going to be joining us.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Regent Tackard.
Here.
Dr. Albrecht.
Here.
Dr. Jade Bourne.
Here.
Wendy Del Bello.
Here.
Karen Edwards.
Here.
Dr. Cindy Griffith.
Here.
Carl Steger. I think I saw him a moment ago.
Yeah,
Kelly
he's
Clint.
Here.
Laurel Joseph.
Here.
Alan Phillips.
Here.
Dr. Pam Sheffman.
Here.
Myself, Tammy Giffro. Board Counsel Rick Morris. I know he's trying to get in. Mr. Amos Byington.
He's not here right now, but he'll be joining later.
Okay. And Mr. Matt Graves.
Here.
Carencia Joshua.
Tammy Ebby is here for her SGA.
Okay. And Eddie Anya Franklin.
Here.
Wonderful. Okay. I think that's everyone, unless I missed anyone.
Carl did got back in.
Yeah.
Tammy here.
Okay.
Yeah, audio's on now. Here.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great. Dr. Albrecht, do you certify that the notice of the meeting was posted in accordance with Title V, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code?
I do so certify.
Okay, it is 6 o'clock and this meeting is hereby called to order. We have the presence of a quorum attending by video conference, and notice of this workshop has been posted online for at least 72 hours. On March 16, 2020, Governor Greg Abbott granted a request by Attorney General Ken Paxton to temporarily suspend a limited number of open meetings laws to the extent necessary to allow telephonic or video conference meetings in response to the coronavirus COVID-19. In accordance with those suspended rules, the board certifies the following. A, although members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance at this meeting by video conference. B, this meeting is being held by video conference because a convening at one location of a quorum of the governmental body is not appropriate during COVID-19 public health emergency. C, based on current guidance from federal, state, and county authorities concerning large gatherings and social distancing during the COVID-19 public health emergency, there is no established location for an audience to observe the meeting. However, the live meeting is accessible through a web link that was timely and appropriately provided to the public and media as part of the meeting posted and via the college's website. D, as we would at any in-person meeting, members of the public who have followed the standard instructions for registering to speak during the public comment portion will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. All other meeting procedures will adhere to board-adopted procedures to the extent practicable. F, a video recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public on the college's website. We will now adjourn to closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071 for the purpose of a private consultation with our attorney, as we seek the advice of this attorney, to deliberate the presidential selection process as in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.074, and to deliberate the dismissal of an ACC advisor in accordance with Texas Government Code Section 551.074. The time is now 6:06, and we will come back into open session at the end of our closed session. We're going to go ahead and proceed. I'm calling the meeting back to order. It is 6:33, and we are now going to have Regent Marvel lead us in the pledge, and then Regent Crum will do the invocation. Join us.
I pledge allegiance to the
To
flag
the flag
of the
of
United
the
States
States of America
and to
and
the
to the republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands
one nation,
Under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty and justice.
liberty,
just for all.
justice for all. Thank you. Regent Crum.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the many blessings you've given us, Lord. We ask for your strength and comfort for those that have been affected by the weather and your guidance and leading as we look at move forward this evening to do the business of the college. Lead and guide and direct us all and provide the comfort to those in need. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, we are now going to go to the citizen inquiry part, and thankfully we don't have any guests tonight, so we can move on to the next item. Item 3 is our board member reports and comments, and so I am going to start with Regent Crum. Anything to report for the cause?
Nothing connected to the college. I'm just hopeful that everybody got through last week with minimal to no damage and things will get back up and running and as close to normal as we can get now.
Right, thank you. Vice Chair Draghi?
We attended the Pearland luncheon today on behalf of the Regents and also the Alvin Manville Chamber and as well as the Pearland Chamber. All events were very well attended and nice, and I was very pleased with all the social distancing being able to go on. 2 things that I have, Men Who Cook. If anyone's interested in going out and voting or for one of our chefs or for purchasing some raffle tickets, you can do that. Let me know and I'll send you the link. It's real simple to do. And then the last thing, just please keep my granddaughter Charlotte in your prayers. She goes for her first surgery on March 10th. And so we're very excited about that, to get to see baby's new bright smile.
Awesome. We will pray. Thank you, Vice Chair Draghi. Secretary Herdenberger?
Wow, if we needed more excitement, we got it last week, didn't we? Like, the hits just keep coming, don't they? I know we'll probably hear soon of how we fared at the college, but I want to thank everybody for all your hard work and dedication through this unprecedented thing that we've just gone through. And I hope all of you fared well. But I just want to say, let's hope that 2021 starts looking better than 2020. So far, it's still 2020 extended. But anyway, thank you, everyone, for your dedication, hard work, and prayers. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary Herdenberger. Regent Marvel?
Just want to echo what Secretary Hertenberger had to say.
Thank you. And then we have Regent Stux Shelton.
Nothing, ma'am.
Thank you. And the Regent Starkey.
Nothing new.
And Regent Tackard.
Just glad we're back to Texas weather again.
Definitely. And I reiterate what everyone has said. We're just thankful that we are all okay, that we came through it well, okay. And hopefully if we know of anyone at the college, staff members, faculty that needs support or help, you will make us aware so that we can help in whatever manner we can. I am proud that even though through that all, some of us kept on working, trying to make sure that the presidential search didn't get too far behind. So I feel pleased with that. And at this time, if I can get myself together here, we are going to do our February board recognitions. Our first person that we're going to highlight is ACC student Jacob Windorf, was recently named to the Texas Music Educators All-State Band. Jacob performs with the euphonium and was chosen for the honor among entries from 22 other community colleges. Ordinarily, Jacob would be participating in an all-state band concert at the organization's annual conference, but this year a solo competition will be held instead. Please recognize Jacob Windorf. And this photo was taken prior to COVID, so that's why they're not masked. Next, as future generations will have to combat the effects of climate change, ACC student Logan Marquis hopes to learn more about the issue to help address it through research. He will soon get an opportunity to do just that, as NASA recently selected him as a National Community College Aerospace Scholar. The internship program encourages students from two-year colleges to continue their STEM education at a four-year university. Please recognize Logan Marquis. This month is National Procurement Month to recognize the dedication and hard work of procurement professional. This board recognizes and holds our entire purchasing department in high esteem. This group of individuals have been vital to the college's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Please recognize Purchasing Director Alan Phillips, Shipping and Receiving Supervisor Bill Campos, Purchasing Assistant Hannah Moore, Buyer Sonia Emmert, and Director Alan Phillips. I think we mentioned him already, but all of this crew deserves our big round of applause because they have been kept very, very busy and they've done an excellent job. Thank you all so much. And that is the end of our presentation for the folks that we are recognizing tonight. So thank you very much. And we will now go on to the next item on our agenda, which is the, if I could have Regent Crum and Regent Marvel to make a motion for approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of January 14th, 2021, and the board workshop of January 25th, 2021.
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you. We have a motion on the table. I'm now going to call roll so that each of you can state your vote, yes or no. Regent Crum?
Yes.
Vice Chair Draghi?
Yes.
Secretary Hertenberger?
Yes.
Regent Marvel?
Yes.
Regent Shelton?
Yes.
Regent Starkey?
Yes.
Regent Tackard? Regent Tackard, yes. And Chair Sanchez, yes. The motion passes 8-0. We are now going to go to the next item on our agenda, which is the information items that were available to you. The personnel action with the Upward Bound Advisor, our employee counts, and our ACC employee resignations. So those are there for your review. Next item on the agenda is our student report. Vice President Aberici Anye Franklin, it is now time for you to visit with us.
Thank you so much. Chairman Sanchez, Dr. Albrecht, regents, faculty, staff, and guests. Good evening. My name is Eberechi Estino Franklin, Vice President of the Student Government Association. I am happy to be joining all of you this evening. I would like to update all of you on the exciting things that SGA has been doing since the beginning of the spring semester. On Tuesday, January 19th, SGA Executive Board and Student Activities hosted Taco Tuesday. As students, faculty, and staff drove through campus, screening everyone was given breakfast tacos. The response we received was extremely rewarding, and we were pleased to have served the campus this way on the first day of the semester. February 20th, SGA and Student Activities hosted Boom Boom Bingo. We had an enormous turnout and prizes were given out to all the winners. The first SGA General Body meeting took place on January 8th. During this meeting, we continued to discuss and plan a variety of activities we would like to host. All of these events are still in the planning process, stages, and many of the details are still pending. On February 5th, the board and selected student body met to prepare for ACC Loves You event. This event took place on February 11th during the lunch hour. All students and staff were given a special Valentine's Day treat as they drove through the health screening at S Building. SGA to remind them that we appreciate each and every one on campus. Throughout the month of February, the SGA Executive Board and Student Activities collaborated with the Black Student Association for a number of events celebrating Black History Month. These events included Black History Month Game Night on February 3rd, Black Mental Health Presentation on February 10th, a special presentation by Step Africa on February 17th, and ended the month with a virtual cultural table talk on February 24th. During the virtual table talk, panelists were invited to discuss pressing issues in our community. We are looking forward to our exciting upcoming events and would like to encourage all of you to take the time to attend. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you so much. What all is Boom Boom Bingo?
Boom Boom Bingo was just an event where we would play music. There would be a host and students would join virtually. And when the music stops, they are given a bingo card. They can either dance to the music being played or go ahead and submit their bingo card.
Oh, good. Well, we'll have to, maybe the board can do one of those for entertainment.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much for presenting to us and for all your hard work. We appreciate your efforts on behalf of the college.
Thank you so much.
Next is item number 7, which is Dr. A's report. This is for information only also.
Thank you, Chair Sanchez, Board of Regents, faculty, staff, and guests. Here is the President's report for February of 2021. First off, I want to let you know about the second round of the CARES Act funding. We have received another $1.138 million of relief that goes to students, directly to students in the form of checks, and that they can use for anything that they need. They do not have to pay tuition. So also, we received a far greater share as the second CARES Act for our own institution. Recall that the first CARES Act, we received 1.138, the same amount as the students. This time we got over $3.6 million. Right now, we have left that money untouched as we are unaware of what our budget situation will be going into the 2021-22 fiscal year. And so they're much more lenient in the ways that we can spend this money. And so we can actually use it to offset revenue losses, which we weren't allowed to do in the first CARES Act. So we're sitting on that money now, and we'll keep you informed and further board reports. The next slide, please. Well, for the 9th consecutive year, our LVN program posted 100% pass rate on their licensure exams. The first time they try it, they all pass. And so that is really wonderful. And the program was also listed as the second best vocational nurse program in the Southwest United States by an organization called Nursing Progress. And I should have found out who beat us out, because we're coming for them. On Next, February 22nd, earlier this week, Monday, we signed an articulation agreement with Stephen F. Austin State University to streamline the transfer process for our students transferring from one of several different AS and AA and AAS degree programs into their 10 different baccalaureate programs. Next. Manville Councilman Dan Davis donated 10 cases of water this week to the ACC blessing boxes. Many of our students and staff, of course, were impacted by the recent winter storm. Also, Regent Darren Shelton and Alvin Police Chaplains Program have donated additional items to our blessing box as one of their many community projects. The ACC family is saddened to learn about the passing of Hoyt Clark. Mr. Clark was a former regent who served on the board from 1972 to 1976. February is Black History Month, and throughout the month, Student Activities Department has hosted many virtual events for students, including a culture table talk, a presentation on mental health, a Black History game night, and more. This past month, ACC students and staff members from the nursing programs, both the ADN and the LVN programs, as well as the medical assistant program and the respiratory care program, assisted with COVID-19 vaccine distributions that were sponsored by the Community Health Network. For the 5th year in a row, ACC hosted the annual Across the Curriculum Conference, which provided local educators with an opportunity to share their methods in the classroom while also learning about how to make improvements, especially in light of being in an online learning environment. And the keynote speaker for the event was Dr. Tamara Clunas, the Vice President of Academic Affairs at Amarillo College. The Neurodiagnostic Technology Program recently implemented a new software platform to allow students to read their test results online. With the new software called Render Neuro, students can continue their education safely from their home and require fewer visits to the campus. And prior to the implementation of Render Neuro, students had to be in the lab at ACC in order to be able to read EEGs. So this puts our students in line with the newer technology that is being used in the real world, because many times when physicians and other medical professionals read EEGs, they're doing it remotely. So they are getting the extra benefit of learning this new technology. Baseball and softball teams started their spring seasons and they played their first home games earlier this month. I heard we had a doubleheader with San Jack. I believe it was last night or tonight, and they each took a game, so that was good. Also, not on this presentation, but you asked about how the campus fared during the storm. We were very fortunate in terms of having minimal damage, and also very fortunate to have the cooperation of our police department walking the campus looking for problems. They found some busted pipes, as one would expect, and they in various locations, mostly outdoors, and in outdoor areas like the field houses and the concession stands. And I think there was a water hydrant, but they capped everything off. We haven't repaired yet, but we expect to be able to once we can get the supplies. But really very, very minimal damage. I heard from other colleges, like Blinn College had $2 million of damage, similar to HCC. And others were more like us with quite minimal damage. Our students and staff have been hit, and we're doing our best to be of assistance to them. And Chair Sanchez, that concludes my report. Nope, Chair Sanchez, you're muted.
I was trying to save y'all from having to hear me. We can now go on to item 8, which is to consider action relating to the dismissal of an ACC advisor. And I am going to ask Secretary Hertenberger to read the motion and asking Vice Chair Draghi to second it.
I move to take action to terminate Ms. Yoruba Russell's employment contract with ACC effective February 25th, 2021, and direct Dr. Albrecht to deliver written notice of termination to her.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. I am now going to call roll so that we can vote on this particular item. Regent Crum?
Yeah.
Vice Chair Draghi?
Yes.
Secretary Hardenberger?
Yes.
Regent Marble?
Yes.
Regent Shelton?
Yes.
Regent Starkey?
Yes.
Regent Tackard?
Yes.
And Chair Sanchez, yes. The motion carries 8-0. We will now move to item number 9, which is to consider the approval of revisions of local board policy. Dr. A, would you like to speak to us about this, please?
Certainly, Chair Sanchez, in your board book, you will see a revision to local board policy BD. And you can see in legislative style markup that the consent agenda paragraph has been added as requested by the board, that you be able to use a consent agenda moving forward. So I'm sure you've all had a chance to read that. And you know that just because something goes on to the consent agenda, in the event that any board member, when we get to the board meeting, wants to take it off the consent agenda and vote on it separately, that you may do so.
Thank you. Thank you. So I ask Regent Shelton to make a motion to approve this revision, and I'd like for Regent Starkey to second it, please.
I make a motion to approve the agenda item for new language for use of consent agenda.
And I happily second.
Thank you. We will now move to vote. Regent Crum?
Yes.
Vice Chair Draghi?
Chair Sanchez. Before we vote on it, we should have some discussion, and not that we need much discussion, but I did notice a typo.
Okay.
On the second page, the word request is hyphenated. I'm pretty sure that's not supposed to be.
Okay.
So just so
Thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. Anybody else see anything else that we need to address? Thank you, Regent Shelton, for keeping us on our toes. Okay, so let's start over. Regent Crum, how do you vote?
Yes.
Vice Chair Draghi?
Yes.
Secretary Hartenberger?
Yes.
Regent Marble?
Yes.
Regent Shelton?
Yes.
Regent Starkey?
Yes, ma'am.
Regent Tackard?
Yes.
And Chair Sanchez votes yes. So that makes that passing with a 8-0 vote. Moving on to item number 10. This is the item to consider approval of the resolution of payment for personnel during closure, the winter ice storm. And, you know, before Dr. A says anything, who would have ever thought we would be here again? Dr. A?
Certainly not us. This is a resolution for payment during the time of closure of the college from Monday morning, February 15th through Saturday morning, February 20th. It's a resolution to pay all employees their regular hourly wage. And it's also asking to pay those employees that came into work. There were 10 of them, 7 police officers, 1 IT, and 2 physical plant, to pay them premium pay at not to exceed 1.5 times their rate of pay, which means they would get their standard rate of pay plus 50% more. So an employee who makes $10 an hour would be actually paid $15 an hour for only actual hours worked on the campus. And that amount totals $3,174.82.
So is that it? That's all?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. Okay. So we are going to ask Regent Tackard and to make a motion, and Regent Crum to second it, please.
I move to make that motion.
Again?
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Is there any discussion?
I have one question.
Okay.
Dr. Albert, that amount you said was 3,172?
I show $3,174.82.
And that's the amount of the overtime or the total proposed amount that would be paid?
Sorry, that's for the premium pay for those 10 people.
And do we know the number for the entire amount?
Well, the number for the entire amount would be no different than what the payroll for a week would be.
Okay, and I that I understood. I was just asking as a matter of record since we're trying to get, to know what the total amount is.
No, I don't have that number, and I know Carl is here, but I doubt that he has that at the ready.
No one from HR would know it?
I don't, HR is in charge of payroll.
I can look on a worksheet if I can find it.
I checked with some other entities, and they did likewise for the most part. And everyone to a person said, no one would ever expect us to have to go through something like this. So we have to take care of the people that are loyal to us on a day-to-day basis. And I knew that it would be a topic that would be discussed, but I just think it's nothing that any of us relish doing, but I think it's a reality of life with hurricanes, and who would have thought a snowstorm?
No, and I don't disagree. I asked only as a matter of record because we've got a number of tax-paying constituents who last week didn't get paid because they weren't able to work, and this is understandable. Most of us, several of us at least, have got staff who work for us, so we all understand. I'm just asking as a matter of record what that total number is.
And Carl, are you able to look at that worksheet and see, or is that something that we could get back later?
Yes, I think I was able to calculate it. If I can just look at just a few more seconds here, I think I was able to.
I think if we had thought of this, Regent Shelton, ahead of time, it would have been something we could have emailed Dr. Albrecht about, and probably she and Carl would have been able to have an answer for us. Just in the interest of time. While
Sure,
I understand, I understand.
Think it would be a number somebody probably had handy.
They're probably doing real stuff.
It's $6,120.56. What that is those hours times their normal hourly rate before the overtime.
Understood. So the total
I don't
amount
think that was the question. That wasn't the question.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
The question was, what is basically a week of payroll for the entire college employees, full-time, part-time?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. For the whole college. Okay. Basically, it's probably in the vicinity of about 1.8 million. Now that could be also
Per week, Carl, or is that a monthly?
Oh, per week. That's the monthly amount. That's a whole payroll. I'm talking about money out whenever we pay out payroll for them. I don't have a weekly amount.
So just divide that by 4.
Yeah, take that. Yeah, divide by 4.3, and it would come out 4.5, and it come out pretty close.
And can you imagine if we would have said we weren't going to pay all of those folks? I mean, I would like to see the faces of some of our staff that's with us tonight, see what they would have thought. I just don't, I know we have to be concerned about the money, but how would we not? Any thoughts from any other board members? I'd love to hear your thoughts because.
Well, across, the conversation came up across our industry is, because most of us across the state were closed and just like at my office, I paid my staff their average number of hours worked because you're loyal to your staff and they pay you back multiple times over. And when you live in this environment that we live that has all the weather challenges, this is just a part of doing business, that you're going to be paying staff for not showing up because the weather is just not going to allow it. It's not safe for them. And when they come back, they more than wake up for any losses. I know we have to go through this every time, but it's just a reality down here. And we just need to, just include it as our normal operating costs and move on.
Thank
Sure.
you.
We paid our
Just-
employees full time as well.
Sure, and we paid our employees as well. But as a matter of record, when we're going to vote on what is effectively $400,000 in a single vote, I think that number is worth mentioning as a matter of record. That's the only question.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Chair Sanchez, if I might just add, just for your information, those of us who could work continued to work. Many people lost power, but even though they lost power, they were on their cell phones meeting with us or on their computer if they could be. We really wanted to try to do remote work. We wanted to move to altered operations and tell everybody work remotely. But it became obvious very quickly that too many people, faculty, staff, and students were impacted by the storm. Internet was unreliable or non-existent. Power, people were dealing with burst pipes and the like. And so that's when we decided very quickly on Monday morning, we need to close the college. And we did. You'll note we closed it for Monday and Tuesday, regrouped, and then ended up closing it for the rest of the week, like most of the area of in the Houston area.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for the discussion, folks. I appreciate it. Anything more on this item? So now we can vote, right? You have to help me. I get a little lost in here. Okay, so let us vote at this time. Regent Crum?
Yes.
Vice Chair Draghi?
Yes.
Secretary Hertenberger?
Yes.
Regent Marvel?
Yes.
Regent Shelton?
Yes.
Regent Starkey?
Yes.
Regent Stuxza? Regent Tackard?
Yes.
And Chair Sanchez, yes. The motion passes 8-0. We will now go into item 11, and Dr. Pam Sheffman is going to discuss the Census Day internal enrollment by location report.
Good evening. And in the interest of time, I am going to just briefly discuss the spring enrollment and look at it in the board book. You will have the numbers which kind of break down and compare our enrollment for spring 2021 in comparison to both last spring and the spring prior. As we are in a funding year, it is helpful to be able to look at both. I would like to be able to just quickly walk us through some of the highlights, but as you are aware, the situation that we are in across all locations and years, you will see that our enrollment is down in comparison. Although I do want to highlight there are a couple things that's not all bad news when we look at our spring numbers. We actually had increases in enrollment in 3 of our dual enrollment locations that were above 30%. Glenda Dawson High School was an increase of 41%, Manville High School was 36%, and Shadow Creek High School was 50% over last spring. So it was wonderful to see that. We still have areas of growth that we can celebrate this semester. Further, we have 4 different modalities that we're offering classes. Recognize that our main campus is our face-to-face classes where we have students and faculty interacting on our campus in smaller socially distanced courses. We also have our hybrid, which is also socially distanced and smaller in size, but has half of the meeting classes in person and half online. Our internet classes are those asynchronous classes where the students are taking an online course at their own pace with faculty interaction. And then the remote location is an online course, but with designated times during the day and week in which faculty meet with students as if they were in person, but it is all online. Out of all of those locations, 50% of our students chose to stick with one modality. And out of that, 70% were the online asynchronous. And then another 43% of our students had two modalities, which means they either were both hybrid and remote or remote and internet in order to ensure that they could take the classes they needed to complete their term. We also had 7% of our students who were either in 3 or 4 modalities, which is also interesting to note that students were kind of understanding their different options, but also telling us what mattered most to them. We did learn a lot about student preferences by the way they enrolled. I know we had asked students about their preferences to complete a survey, but their actions really did speak a lot louder. So our estimate for enrollments really is based on our 16 and 1 week and mini week 1 semester. But if we look at it as we break it down, the mini semesters where students are taking a more concentrated coursework in 8 weeks actually outperformed previous semesters. And that is also true for our 12-week and our mini 2 semester. We haven't got anywhere close to completion for mini 3, but really students have been telling us that they are appreciating these concentrated opportunities given the current situation and what's going on in their personal lives as well, I'm sure. The other highlight I just want to mention is that our fall to spring retention, so students who were with us in 2020, we have 70% of those students have returned this spring. So our students are returning, which is helpful to note as well as we continue to think how our summer will shape up and our enrollment for our fall 2021 semester. So I'll take any questions now if there are any about the enrollment report.
Questions, folks?
I've got a couple, Dr. Sheffman.
Sure.
So we have 70% returning. That means we have 30% that did not return from fall to spring?
Correct.
Do we have any insight into why?
Typically, from a fall to a spring term, our retention is around 70%. I believe last spring it was at 73%. So it is fairly typical that students take more classes in the fall term than they do the spring. It could be due to seasonal work or other issues. It really depends on the student. So we don't have necessarily specific data points that would tell us why they don't, but we also do track closely our fall to fall retention as well. And I think that we're doing a fairly typical, even given the current situation.
Okay, thank you for that. So when we look at the high schools, some are up, some are down. Do we have any insight into why one versus the other?
We do not have any particular data points that would indicate that it was any difference. I think that the enrollment for our courses where we see students increasing their enrollment, it could be that it's just becoming a growth area for that school to be able to offer to the students.
And in the ones where it's down, we're, if I'm reading it right, 20+% for 2 of the schools?
Correct, you are reading that correct.
Do we have any insight why those are down so substantially?
We have not received any particular feedback from our dual enrollment advisors, although we could ask for sure.
Well, okay. I mean, 20% is a pretty big number. So I would think it useful for us to have some idea if we want to correct that. What impact do these numbers have on our biennium count, if I'm understanding that correctly?
I can take that, Pam.
Mm-hmm.
So we are in constant discussion with our organization, Texas Association of Community Colleges, to redefine what our ask is going to be. We were told pretty early on, don't ask for any more than you had money in the 86th legislature. So that's what we did. We went to the House and Senate with our package, which was exactly the same amount as we had in the 86th legislature. And both of them accepted it right away. And so then we went back and said, look, when we gave you this information, this was all calculated back in March. before all the pandemic and before we knew how serious this was going to be in terms of our enrollment loss. And if we maintain at our same level with all of us, most of us, 45 colleges lost enrollment, then we will be 45 colleges in really bad shape. So we have gone back. We're going back to, as a matter of fact, a testimony was given yesterday to ask to increase in the area of our student success points, which is going to increase our per student success point rate. And then also we are asking for for lack of a better term, I think it's fairly understandable, a hold harmless, so that no college would receive any less money than they did in a previous year. Because right now, Alvin Community College being down 11% headcount and 16% contact hours, if they cut us proportionately, we would be in a really difficult place. So we're going back to the legislature to ask for a 2.5% increase, which is about another $46.3 million. And I think it actually could end up being a little bit bigger number than that. But that's what we're planning to do, because we're all in the same, all but a handful literally of colleges are in the same bad place that we are.
So do we expect that's going to, that we're going to either get an increase or stay neutral to where we were previously, regardless of the drop in contact hours, et cetera?
You know, that is our hope. We hope that we are supported. We're getting good reads from our legislators. You know, they're all saying the same things. They're saying, we know that the community colleges are the solution to getting our workforce back to work. They're saying the right things. So we certainly hope that. So any influence any of you have with any of our legislators, if you can help us send the message that this is not the time to cut it, because you know what's going to happen? Come July, August, when everybody's got their vaccine, everybody's coming back to college. And we are also working, and we're not just hoping that will be true, but we're working hard with our Strategic Enrollment Management Committee and putting practices in place to try to get those 11% students that did not come back this spring semester to come to college. And so it's the same thing. It's the same exact thing that happened to us during Harvey, right? So we had bad biennium and Harvey, our funds get cut, and what happens? The next fall, we have the highest enrollment ever in 71 years. And they know that, the legislators know it. And not only that, but moving forward, we are asking for a special commission to look at the funding overall for community colleges. Just as they did last legislative session with K through 12, we're going to be asking for that to happen for us, because we know this it's not a good system to fund your colleges 2 years in the arrears, for one thing. That doesn't make any sense. And to keep penalizing people who don't have growing taxing districts, like we are fortunate to have growing taxing districts, but many colleges do not have that. And so we need a more equitable way to fund what is the best thing going in the state of Texas in terms of higher education. So that is going forward, as well as the TRUE initiative that I talked about before, which is to give each college money to develop short-term certificate training programs to get people back to work who have lost their jobs during the pandemic.
Thank you. And I'll just thank you for that, Dr. And I would certainly encourage us to try and figure out what might be contributing to the loss of those campuses, because any business, 20% is a big number when you're talking lost revenue. So we certainly need to try and figure out what that is so we can try and correct it.
Well, honestly, I have got to believe that it has to do with the online learning environment. Some of the students were not successful in the fall and therefore did not want to continue in the spring. And I think they're either waiting it out and for when we are back face to face again. And I mean, that's just an anecdotal belief, but all of those dual enrollment numbers have been growing all this time. So what's the difference? The difference is COVID, I think.
Well, and I would agree with you, Dr. A. I think that the online learning environment has not bode well for many of our students who we're used to the dynamics of a traditional classroom, and in the absence of us having those offerings, you know, and I have to wonder, when we talk about their preferences and how they enrolled, did we give them both options in both cases? Because if we didn't, well, then that kind of skews what their preferences might have been. And so certainly if we, I mean, you know, Zoom calls and Microsoft Teams and all this sort of stuff's here to stay, as is online learning at a higher degree or scale than what it was a year and a half ago. But we've got to figure out, what do we need to do to increase our experience so that students don't want to disengage and wait, rather incentivize them through a good experience to say, this is awesome, I would just as soon do this. So I think any insights we can glean from that, we would be remiss if we didn't dive into them, because this is the only way we're really going to, you know, get to it. So thank you for that information.
I think along with that, Regent Shelton, I think it behooves us as an institution to really, and Dr. Griffith, you're probably not going to want to hear this, but I really think we need to look at both the curricula that we're using and evaluate how our instructors are handling the online instruction. Because as the situation that we dealt with earlier, there are some people that are, you know, some people are easy to get in there and adjust and do whatever it takes to make instruction exciting and whatever. But other people just have a hard time with it, and that presentation and that follow up and that connection that you can make person to person just isn't there. And so those are the students, I think, Darren, that we're losing. It's those people that just cannot deal with that there's a coldness to online instruction. You can't get away from that. It's just reality. And I just, as an educator, I think that's a huge part, just watching my own grandson in the situation. So I think we have to, as we continue to offer more online instruction, we have to get the best people doing it. And I know that's hard, because those best people aren't a dime a dozen, you know what I mean? But we really have to work at getting those people up to snuff. We've got to train them, and because we've got to be cutting edge, we've got to be the best, because we will continue to lose them if we don't do that. And I'm not saying we haven't tried and we're not doing it, but I just think, you know, we all need to be aware that that has to be a priority.
Well,
I don't know if you.
I'd like to piggyback on what you're saying, Chairman Sanchez. And if we know the historical data demographics of the schools that are struggling, that we saw the decreases compared to the three that we saw the increases in enrollment. There's probably an economic imbalance when we compare those schools. So obviously, if there's resources and education in the home at certain schools, there's a high growth. And I feel like, being a first generation college student myself, coming from a family who probably would have lacked the resources to do this, but qualified to do so, that those are the areas of focus I think we should focus on when I look at the schools that decreased, and those ones who are our neediest learners, to say what can we do to put the resources towards those specific students, as we saw the humongous growth in the areas that we know that you know, demographically we can look at the economics in there and know that there's a difference there. So I hope we can glean those lessons and say, whatever we do going forward, that population that we're really, you know, we're really focusing on, and I'll stop on my soapbox.
I think we all agree. Dr. Griffith, did you want to share anything?
Thank you, Chair Sanchez. I just wanted to say that, you know, our faculty need to have ongoing professional development opportunities. And while we do the best that we can right now with our Center for Success, the truth is that we have one faculty fellow who gets one course release for that, and we don't have another staff member in there. And so, especially in times that we're experiencing now, our faculty not only deserve, but they need to have additional professional development, because most of them, they've been in the classroom face to face. And so they were forced last year into a situation that none of us could have predicted, just not any more than that storm last week. And so I think that professional development is very, very important, that ongoing professional development, not just in online instruction or remote instruction, but also in the classroom, making sure that, we provide the highest quality, most engaging instruction that's possible for those students. And I do want to ensure the regents, all of you, that our deans have done a tremendous job of being virtually in those classrooms, continuing the same evaluation that we've always done. It is obviously different because it's online, but if we had a class that was face-to-face, those faculty members were observed in the classroom face-to-face. If they were in a virtual learning environment, they were observed in a virtual learning environment and provided feedback. And also, if they needed or wanted some type of resources, we're trying our best to provide those to them or direct them toward a conference or some other type way that they can increase their knowledge and their instruction in the classroom, because they want that. All of them want what's best for our students. So thank you for letting me share that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Sorry, Belle, I got one question for Dr. Sheffman. So as far as the data goes, I appreciate you highlighting those areas of growth. So let's look at it from the flip perspective. What was the most concerning statistic that you saw? What did you say? This is the one we need to really dig deeper into.
Well, I think we're most concerned about the issues happening in the TDCGA units. I think we have very little control over what we can do. I think we have definitely done our best to modify instruction for those areas, but the ability to grow in TDCGA is very limited based on what is happening to our current situation. So I think that is one of the largest concerning areas in terms of the area that we saw a drop that we could probably do very little for. Otherwise, I don't think in comparison to our peer institutions, because we were doing lots of tracking with other institutions of where they were throughout their spring semester, we look very similar to our sister institutions in the region in terms of how students are enrolling in courses. So I think that's the only one that we need to continue to keep our eye on and really watch the policies for the units to ensure that we can continue to serve the very needy population of our incarcerated students. You hit mute, Chair Sanchez.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments that any of you want to make prior to moving forward to vote on this? Oh, we don't vote. Moving forward? Okay. Hearing no other questions, we're going to move on. Thank you so much, Dr. Sheffman, Dr. Griffith, so much, and Dr. A for speaking to this issue. We'll now move to item 12, the Comprehensive Program Review Report, Continuing Education and Workforce Development Program, CDL, GED, and pipe fitting. Dr. A.
So I'll just introduce this topic, and then Pam is going to walk us through a very brief PowerPoint presentation. You'll recall that your goal number 6 that you gave me for this year was to look at 3 different programs in the CEWD area of your choosing, and those were the commercial truck driving, the GED, and pipe fitting. And so you have scads of information in your board book for each of those 3 programs. And thanks to Pam, Dr. Sheffman's leadership, we are now moving toward a systematic program review process that is all data entry is being put into the same format that we do our SAC COC report. It's called Compliance Assist. And that's, so you'll see a very similar looking format in all 3 of the reports. And she's going to talk us through a little bit about the general program review process, and then highlight some of the findings on each of the programs in a very brief PowerPoint report. Dr. Sheffman.
Thank you, Dr. Albrecht. So I'm going to walk us quickly through what the comprehensive program review process looks like. And just as a reminder to the board and our guests, all of our programs at Alvin Community College go through the same comprehensive program review. Whether you're an academic technical area, you're our non-credit programs, campus services, even our instructional our technology arm has gone through a program review. There is a 3-year cycle right now where we have programs who, through our long terms of both fall and spring. And the fall term, we had 14 different programs go through, including the 3 that I'm going to share with you today. The consistent program exists in order to ensure that all programs have equitable opportunities to really look at continuous improvement. The first phase of it is evaluation, where the program sits down and makes sure to clearly understand who their stakeholders are, spends time not only with our office, but the leadership team and their supervisors to ensure that it's a comprehensive look at all the stakeholders. Then we begin a very large data collection process, which includes our annual quality indicators for all of the programs, also looking at everything from enrollment data for these particular programs, also looking at revenue data, and also hosting a strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats session with the program and their stakeholders. So we ensure that that consistently happens for all of our programs. The largest heavy lift for our programs really is the analysis phase, because they need to take all of the previously mentioned pieces and bring them together and understand what it means for the program. So we spend a lot of time talking about how do you use your data to make better informed decisions and follow through with a written report that would be a document that will guide the program for the next several years. So the report writing will bring all that together, and the end of every report for the comprehensive review program process ends in writing strategic action plans for that program. So it is very important to recognize that the whole process is centered on continuous improvement. The most important thing that happens through this process is the what's next. So for our 3 programs tonight, I would like to highlight the action step pieces, but that does not discount the heavy lifting and work that happens in the first half of the reporting. So we did give you the entire reports so you can look through all of the phases and understand what's in there, but I'd like us to start with the commercial driving license. So in that comprehensive program review, you'll notice that there are 4 large action steps that are a result of the program review. We want to first start talking about increasing capacity and revenue. So the program is going to be focused in the next few years about increasing the number of students and really maybe even doubling the capacity within each section that they offer. So they're looking at all the steps that we'll take to get them there, as well as increasing revenue through investigating and the utilization of simulated driving technologies. That would allow more students to be able to work through the program and be able to complete a section faster. And that will also reduce cost if we can ensure that that's happening throughout the entire program. So once we have that, hopefully we will see a big change, and the next time we look at this program, we start talking about their training capacity and revenues. Beyond that, they really are focused on the scheduling for their third-party testing. It is a point of pride for the program that we are the region's third-party test provider. So we really need to focus in on improving that process from the registration all the way through the completion of the process. If we can really improve the effectiveness of communication and regarding to scheduling across the department, as well as with our key stakeholders, we hope to improve the testing opportunities and the number of tests that are offered. We also, through the process, have really looked at data in regards to students passing that third-party test on their first attempt and want to see that increase happen. Now, the third item is about an automatic truck. So there is an understanding that there is a necessary need for increasing the number of students who have behind the wheel training. And if we had an additional truck, it would happen to increase the number of students who can complete section work, but it will also increase the students who can operate automatic truck transmission trucks. So one of the things that we'll also do is, if we have an additional truck, increase the students' throughput through the program as well as revenue. The fourth and final item that's in the report is about the partner engagement. So engagement is really critical to the program, and want to increase student engagement through having more graduate placement opportunities. And so one of the big outcomes for the program will be to increase what we would call our advisory committee and the partnership for the program. The next program is our General Education Development, or also known as our GED completion. The first of the 3 action items is really to increase financial support for our students who are in the program, specifically through grant funding. One big task is really to investigate the feasibility of partnering with the Houston-Galveston Area Council and Adult Education Literacy Consortium. That's an opportunity that the program will investigate to see if we can increase the amount of funds that students can use towards completing their GED. This student experience is also very important to the program. They'd like to increase the number of students who can receive services outside of the classroom, and also the ability for them to locate additional resources for completing their GED, consistent pre-testing as well as placement services. They want to be able to have students participate in informational meetings in order to have consistent opportunities to address student concerns as well as access to resources. One of the other student experiences that they hope to do is make sure to be there for students to understand the importance of persisting through completion of test taking so that they can further their career and educational goals. The last for the GED is engagement, both through the students and stakeholders. They understand that they would like to increase the number of students who receive assistance in transitioning from not only just completing the coursework, but taking the GED test. Because the test is currently not part of the course, if we can close that gap between just taking the class to taking the class and test taking, it will increase student success. Further, there is an opportunity to increase this program through an advisory committee as well, similar to what we had just discussed for the CDO. The third program for CEWD was our pipe fitting program. They had 3 very large areas to work on after reviewing all of their data. The first is increasing enrollment, and they had specific tasks targeted towards increased enrollment. One of those is marketing. Understanding what pipe fitting is a challenge for the program, and they understand that students generally walk in the door and know what welding is, but not necessarily pipe fitting. So they want to improve the marketing about the program in order to increase enrollment. They also want to increase the number of informational tours that are offered about the program so that people really understand more deeply what pipe fitting can offer. Increasing the partnerships within the community was also an important part towards increasing enrollment and really focusing on some of our target student population, like veteran students. The overall and improvement of industrial partnerships will also help the program by leveraging the current strength of our instructors, again, looking at marketing and ways to increase our marketing and building relationships outside of ACC. So in order to leverage the strength of our instructors, try to get them out to more organizations and increase their partnerships, as well as increasing partners and visiting the program and understanding what we have to offer at ACC. And the final item on pipe fitting really is to focus in on a curriculum. There is a great need to look at instruction or professional development when we talk about our hybrid course offerings and how we have moved to our virtual learning environment. Also understanding that we can increase some of our scheduling of our programs if we can reduce some of the wait time for students if they can access their credentials faster if they can take their exams online. So we want to be able to increase the number of start dates for our entry-level pipe fitting program by at least one additional program a year. And that will be able to create some consistent online and hybrid offerings for our courses. So that is just some of the brush highlights of the program. I recognize that there's a lot more in all of those reports, and I'm happy to address anything about the process or the programs.
Do we have any comments or questions for Dr. Shefman? Hearing none?
Thank you for all that research. That was wonderful.
Yes, lots of information. Thank you much. And hopefully we can take some of that information and let it guide us and keep improving. Thank you. Okay, yes, was there someone? Okay, thank you, Dr. Shefman. We will now move on to item 13, which is a strategic plan report relating to goal 5. And Carl Stager will now take the podium. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Chair Sanchez, Dr. Albrecht, Board of Regents, staff, and guests. Let me see if I can get the screen here. There we go. Okay. So goal number 5, I'm the accountable executive manager of this particular goal for our strategic plan. And we'll do a quick review of the integrated planning model, which is the model that shows the interrelationship between our Board of Regents policy, direction, mission, and vision in conjunction with the 5-year strategic plan, which is our long-range planning that we use and is integrated with our college annual planning, the integrated planning model that you see here. And this is kind of our yearly business cycle here, where we go from planning and budget development to resources being allocated, implementing a plan, assessment and analysis, the continuous improvement and setting new targets onto our operational plan, and then the cycle begins all over again. And here you see the interrelationship between those two, the more long-range, higher level planning and mission and vision of the board and administration, along with the yearly circular model that we have with our students and our community in the middle. This is our strategic plan consists of 6 breakthrough goals, and the one we'll be talking about tonight is number 5, which is Alvin Community College will maximize the acquisition of revenue, taking into consideration the interest and values of stakeholders, and allocate them efficiently to the highest and best value for the institution. And many of these goals, these sub-goals, objectives that are in this goal were front-loaded in this 5-year period, so a lot of them have been reviewed already with you before. We'll review just a few of those as far as some of the lingering things that are still going on with some of them. 5.1, which is the one that deals with allocating college funds through our budget development on the departmental and program initiatives. The item or initiative that we had complete this year was the completion of the budget manual. If you remember that from the fall, I believe that was in the president's goal, and it was distributed through the pod so that everyone on campus has access to that. Objective 5.2 is the one that deals with establishment of a comprehensive resource development grant department. And most of those procedures for applying for a grant, they've been in place for several years. The one tidbit of information that I got from Galen Capps is since fall of 2016, the grant department is responsible for acquiring 30 grants, and the economic impact of that, or the dollar amount of those grants, $11,491,017. And then also we're dealing with facilities utilization in this particular strategic goal. and the utilization by stakeholders as well as by internal users. And I thought we'd focus on what's happened this year in relationship to the COVID testing that's gone on here on campus. You can see we had 3 different dates here in June, July, and December where we had COVID testing going on. And then just recently we had, it's a very small group, and it was a group that was already set aside. They already knew who all the participants were going to be, but they actually did do a COVID vaccine distribution through the community health network, using some of our parking space to do that. In addition, goal objective 5.3.1 deals with expanding the foundation's efforts for funds development and financial support for students. You received or got to see the foundation report last year, so you know that it's doing quite well. And even Wendy might chime in here. There might be some news about what's going on with the foundation, at least financially. But this is the tidbits of information I thought I would share with you, and that deals with income from events and donations, along with total amount given to ACC. So that's since 2016-17 fiscal year. You can see the increase, and especially the increases in 17-18, and then the last year of 19-20, and of course 17-18 you had Hurricane Harvey, and then 19-20, the last half of that fiscal year, you had COVID, the effect of COVID and people needing help there. You can see the reflection of how much is given out to ACC and how it is increasing, and how large that give out was during the year of Hurricane Harvey, and even the year with 19-20 with COVID. One final section in the objectives of goal number 5 is the development of key performance indicators for financial aid, to include grants, loans, scholarships, and private donations. And what this chart is showing, I know there's a lot of numbers in the middle and might be very difficult to read, but if you mainly draw your attention to the right-hand side where the yellow numbers are, the goal or the objective was to increase Pell recipients on campus by 10% over 5 years. And so number of awards Pell awarded from 2015-16 to last fiscal year 2019-20, that's a 58% increase. Pell dispersed since 2015-16 to last full fiscal year is a 34% increase. Also, you can see along the bottom you have here is the total dollars of Pell that flows through the college. Some of that money is used to pay for the tuition and fees and possibly books of the student, and then the remainder goes out to the student. And you can see in 15-16 we're a little over 3 million, and last fiscal year we were almost at 4.1 million. So you had almost a 33% increase just in that short amount of time. And you see this 91% highlighted. This is Perkins grant funding. So a side impact of increasing Pell is that you can increase your Perkins grant funds. And the way that it happens is Perkins grants are driven by full-time technical students that receive Pell. And if you increase your full-time technical students that receive Pell, then you will get an increase in your award for your Carl Perkins funding, which is geared toward helping out technical programs. And so you can see from 2016-17 we had $90,000, which this number had been shrinking for quite a while. You can see to the current year that we're in, our beginning year allocation, this is for 2020-21, is $172,178, so a 91% increase just in that amount of time. And also what happens with Perkins a little bit is if other schools aren't able to spend their money, they do a reallocation sometimes, and sometimes we can get even a little bit more money in the last few months of the year, and we often use that to buy technical equipment. I know in years past that we've bought equipment for the radio station with Perkins funds. So that is my presentation. Any questions?
Yeah, Carl, I got a question. I like the why is what I like to focus on. Wasn't there an increase in the last few years, or a change in Pell distribution that was maybe a significant increase in the students incarcerated that were receiving Pell? Is that correct?
Yes, that's another part of it as well. Yeah, the second chance Pell, and so that is still in effect. I mean, of course, now it's very difficult to give that money out because it's difficult to even hold a class with, and that's what Dr. Sheffman was referring to there.
Yeah, that's.
And so, yeah, so that's, kind of sideline that for right now. But once we are able to get back into the prison system, get those registrations going again, using that second chance Pell, then that'll be another area of increase to get those Pell dollars flowing.
So would you say that was the driving force in the increase in Pell?
I don't think so. If you look at these numbers, the very first year or second year there, we had like a large increase, like 42%, just right out of the gate. And once we put an emphasis on that, I guess we got a lot of the low hanging fruit there, and I think that's really buoyed us over. And then it's just a matter of maintaining and then trying to get all the new students that you can to apply. It's kind of a it's a big, I think, kind of a big application to kind of daunting for some students, and that's kind of what holds them back. But if you can get them to overcome that, you can really help the student out, help the college out as well, and even in other programs, as you can see with the Perkins funding.
Maybe Dr. A, you could talk about the maybe specific strategies or actions we took to increase that 42% initially.
Yes, that was really the Marilyn Dement effect.
Yeah.
We knew when she got here, just as when I got here, I was shocked at the low number of Pell recipients that we had, and she was as well. And so she did everything she could to get students to apply. As a matter of fact, she made it the focus of her dissertation, which she recently completed. So now she's Dr. Marilyn Dement, but she focused on why don't students apply for financial aid. And so she took what she was learning along the way in her program and applied it to our college. And we're hoping that that if the legislation is passed, to continue to simplify and streamline the application process for Pell, that it will even increase further the number of students that apply, as well as come fall of 2021, a law will go into effect that was passed last legislative session to require high school students to apply for Pell. There are a few exceptions that a student could get away with not applying for Pell, but for the most part, that it's going to be a requirement for them. And so really putting things in place to track students down, to encourage them to apply, to take away the stigma of applying for grant money, to make sure they know it's grant money. A lot of times the students think they have to pay this money back. And so getting all that information to them was really, really helpful, especially in that first major year that we made it a goal.
I remember that well, because I remember speaking to some of the financial aid folks at the time. And I think what she brought to the forefront also was training of our people who had been there forever, who just weren't doing because they hadn't really been exposed to the training and the possibilities out there. And anything dealing with financial aid is daunting for people. They're scared to death. If you've ever had to try to fill out those forms, an educated person goes through heart palpitations. So imagine a person who can't read or write English trying to help their child fill out those forms. It's just ridiculous. And so I think the thing that she brought was the training, and it really, I think some of the financial aid staff was they were as daunted by it all as the students. And so I think she brought a lot of that training and made it more, she just improved it tremendously. And I think she just, she helped us a great deal. And so, Dr. A.
We get that presentation sent to us.
Oh, yes, it should have been dropped
Yeah.
into, it should have been dropped into your board book. We'll make sure we do that. And I would also say the other thing that happened that first year was that we changed how we were doing financial aid.
Yeah.
Some of you might recall that before, when you wanted to see a financial aid advisor, you walked up to the front counter. The financial aid people were locked in the back, literally locked in the back. They would have to come out. They would meet with the student up front. We changed that whole way where now students could directly go to the financial aid office and seek assistance. Because, I mean, I don't know the exact number, but I mean, the majority of students who come to us for help, they're either there to register or find out about money. And so now they can go right to the source. And when I asked the financial aid folks, do you like it better this way? You know, where the students can come right into financial aid. You're not locked up in a cage in the back. And they said, we love it because we can help students better this way. And so I think that also had a lot to do with the big jump.
Do we have any other questions for Carl or Dr. A on this? Okay, hearing none, we will move forward because this was an information item. Dr. A and Carl, thank you all very, very much for that information. We appreciate it. Now we are moving to item 14. Consider approval of personnel action replacement for the associate degree nursing faculty. Dr. A.
It seems like we always have an opening for nursing faculty. And so this is another wonderful nursing faculty that we hope to bring forward, Loretta Kaufman. And she, if you approve her tonight, I believe she's able to start just before spring break.
And Chair Sanchez, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you. Jim Crum, would you please make a motion? And Regent Marva, would you second, please?
Move to hire.
Seconded.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Do we have any discussion before we move forward? Hearing none, we're going to vote. Regent Crum?
Yes.
Vice Chair Draghi?
Yes.
Secretary Hertenberger?
Yes.
Regent Marvel?
Yes.
Regent Shelton?
Yes.
Regent Starkey?
Yes.
Regent Tackard?
Yes.
And Chair Sanchez votes yes, so we have an 8-zip motion passing. Now we go to item 15, which is consider the approval of a change order to O'Donnell Snyder Construction Contingency Fund. And we are going to let Amos Byington speak to us about this. Dr. A, did you have anything to say beforehand?
I would just like to say that we have 2 items tonight from AGCM with regard to change orders to the O'Donnell Snyder contractors contract. And I think Matt is going to talk us through, maybe Amos is there as well. But the first item is to do with the contingency fund, and the second item is to do with the getting some additional moving from funds. Nothing is about additional funds, but moving some funds from one bucket to another. Both of these items are about moving current funds from one bucket to another. And Matt is going to be able to expertly explain all of that.
Excuse me, Matt, I was looking straight at you and calling you Amos. Just you know, put that on the side of OLD, okay? Sorry. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. So as Dr. Albrecht said, we have 2 agendas this evening. Neither one of them is for additional money. It's just moving previously allocated money into certain pots and getting the contractor approved to spend money under their contract. The first one's for additional contingency funds to O'Donnell Snyder to their base contract. The contract, the original contingency was $375,000 in their contract. A contingency fund it's spelled out in the memo, but it's basically a fund in case you find unforeseens in the field. You know, in any construction project, something's going to happen and you have to have a change that's different than what the drawings tell you to do. And so, especially in a renovation project like this, you know, in older buildings, when you tear down a wall or look above a ceiling, there's really no telling what you might find. The engineers go through and they do the best they can with the time and the money allocated to their contracts to document the best what they believe is there. We went through all the old construction projects dating back to the 60s. We've got racks of drawings here, which the engineers use to design the construction drawings. So when it gets into construction, you may find something in the field that's a little bit different than what is called out for. And so we initially had a $450,000 pure construction contingency set aside when we very first, a couple years ago, carved up the $25 million. And then there was a $2 million allowance. We called it the furniture contingency fund. It was, hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't have to touch it, but it's there for contingency purposes if we have to do it for construction. So we first allocated $375,000 to O'Donnell Snyder in their base contract, with the other $75,000 still sitting there for other projects, because there's still quite a bit of work that's happened outside of O'Donnell Snyder's contract. We're reaching the end of the contract here, and we've had a couple, many small change orders just have come up over the time. You tear down a wall and you find a conduit in the wall that has to move. You didn't realize it was there. The HVAC ductwork's running in a different direction away than you thought it was, and so you got to make some small changes as you go along the way. There's kind of been a couple bigger ones that we found, like in the E-building ceiling. We found that it was, actually asbestos. So we actually ended up taking out the entire E-building ceiling and building it back. We could have had a little smaller change order to just abate, what we needed to do. But talking to the college and everyone, we determined, spend a little bit more now and go ahead and abate the whole ceiling. And then if you ever have to come back in the future and hang another light or add a speaker or add a camera, you're working on a safe, surface. You don't have to worry about coming in and abate it for anything like that. That was one of the bigger ones. With that being said, we're looking to go over the originally $375,000 contingency that we had set aside. But with that said, the O'Donnell Snyder contract, when it bid, it came in under our total budget. So we had a delta there of $841,000. And so, we're asking to move $625 from that's just sitting there into a contingency fund to fund some more of these change orders that are coming up. I'll add that, on a normal renovation project, you may say a 10% construction contingency would be kind of what you'd budget and estimate. And then when you add the previous 375 and then the 625, we're a little under 7%. So that's still, we're doing really well at that point.
Bill, you're on mute and I can see you talking.
Thank you, dear. I'm going to go ahead and ask that Vice Chair Draghi make a motion to approve the motion as stated, and then Secretary Hertenberger, if you would second it, so then we can have some questions.
Do you want me to read the whole thing, Bill?
Yes, please.
Motion to approve the $625,000 change order to the O'Dell Snyder Construction Contingency Fund as presented in this memo. The money will only be used if needed, and upon college approval, any unused portion will be credited back to the ACC bond program.
Thank you.
I second that.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the table, and now I would entertain questions from any of the regents to Matt. Go ahead, folks.
Hey, Matt. So I guess I'm just making sure. We're just upping the contingency from 375 to 625, or we're adding 625 to that contingency for this specific order?
It's adding 625 to it, so that's a total of $1 million.
All right, so we're adding the contingency. Is it already spent?
I've got change orders ready for college signature, so a lot of it's not spent yet, but I need to spend it to keep moving.
What I meant was, is that 625 already allocated? Do you already have projects that are waiting on our approval of that?
The majority of it, yes. We tallied up what I have outstanding and then added a little bit more to it to cover, what we may still see. But with that being said, it is a contingency. So if it doesn't get used, it just goes back into the pot. It's not their money to keep. It's just there to pre-approved basically to get for change orders.
And that's within money that's been saved on the project already?
Correct. This doesn't dip into the, we still have the $2 million furniture fund, which that's on the next memo, but
Yeah.
as of right now, this doesn't dip into, this is just basically savings.
Anybody else?
Yeah, so, I mean, I know it's only gonna, if it went unused, it would come back, but we already know that it's going to be used. I mean, the bulk of it is already got projects waiting for a signature to claim that money. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Where are we in general toward being done? I mean, how much more room is there for other projects to creep up over the next, really 3 months, I guess? Are we going to be done in 3 months?
Yes, sir. We're looking to be done around the end of May on these projects here.
Okay, well, I'm asking about all the projects.
Oh, overall, yeah, we're looking to be done. I'd say June.
Okay, well, I mean, but we just extended y'all's contract through May 31st. So are we talking about we're not going to be done by May 31st?
Well, that was to extend our base contract. There may be a couple smaller things that push into June. We also had an extension on our contract for some additional projects, which we haven't billed against yet. That's we've done, that's kind of in this next memo, but we haven't been billing against that work yet.
Okay, well, I guess I'm just asking about, I mean, if we give this extra 625 for the million, then okay, we know that's basically spent. So are we going to be getting another request in another month that we need more contingency?
No, sir. I believe this will be it.
Okay. Well, the reason why I ask is at some point we have to say, okay, that's it. There's no more. Work with what you got. No more projects. And I think that's the concern is we extend, we move money from here to over there. How many more times are we going to do that before we get to the end of this?
Oh, yes, sir. I understand what you're saying. This is actually for contingency for O'Donnell Snyder's base contract. This isn't, for this memo right now, isn't any additional projects. This is their base contract. We were real conservative because, we could have went ahead and, pulled out 10% of the bond and allocated it to their contract from the very beginning. But we were trying to be real conservative with how we were doing it. And we've been working really hard to, make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck on everything we're doing. So we had that $2 million set aside from the very beginning. I know we're not dipping into it here, but we called it the furniture fund because we're hoping, to be able to buy as much classroom furniture and stuff as possible at the very end. So we didn't want to allocate that straight to construction until, really all other things are exhausted.
Do I have any other questions for Matt on this?
Matt, the funding for this contingency comes out of savings in the original contract, correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and move the question. Let's see, Regent Crum,
Yes.
Regent Vice Chair Draghi,
Yes.
Secretary Hardenberger,
Yes.
Regent Marvel,
Yes.
Regent Shelton,
Yes.
Regent Starkey,
Yes.
Regent Tackard,
Yes.
and Chair Sanchez votes yes, so that passes 8-0. Thank you, Matt. And now we'll move on to item number 16, which is to consider the approval of a change order to O'Donnell Snyder Construction's contract to fund projects outside of the bond program. And so when we get to time for a motion, if I could have Regent Vice Chair Draghi and Secretary Hardenberger make that motion in second, we'll go ahead and let Matt explain what's going on here, and then we'll go back and make the motion and ask our questions.
So this one, if you recall, most of you, I guess, were on the board and some of you weren't, but back in February of 2020, the Board of Regents approved to allocate $2.1 million in additional funds to supplement the bond program to cover some additional construction projects. We had a list of projects that most of them, kind of the lion's share here is in this memo. A few other ones included AV upgrades to Nolan Ryan Center in the E building. There was some additional funds to add to the landscape and sidewalk budget we had and those sort of things. The total estimated cost of all the work of this now is $2.8 million, and it's about $745,000 over our original budget. You know, there's a few reasons why that happens. When we've put together the first original budget, it was, you know, preliminary construction budgets, which is done before all the design's done. You kind of do that to set your budget, and then you move forward, and you really work to stay within that budget. But you know, when you go through design, sometimes you realize that, you know, sometimes it's a little bit bigger than what you anticipated. We did have some scope creep across the projects, which caused a little bit bigger funds. A little bit of it is change order pricing versus competitive bidding. There's pros and cons to, at this point, to go out to change order pricing versus bidding. You know, change order pricing, you may not necessarily get the best price, although we work very hard to make sure we're getting a fair price. But you know, the pros along with that are that you get, you got a contractor on site. You know, everything at warranty will be through one contractor. We won't be pointing fingers at each other. It's a smoother, the schedule should go faster because you're not having to go out to bid. They can just roll right into it. And right now, too, there's quite unforeseen market conditions going on in the world. I get an email almost daily about, you know, material prices going up, steel's going through the roof, just you name it, everything seems to be going crazy. Those are some reasons why, you know, in general, you know, your budget may be a little higher than you anticipated. We're proposing that so this is kind of a two-part memo here. The first part is kind of a FYI. Right now, we're showing that we're $745,000 of the is currently, we're currently $745,000 over the original budget. You know, it's being proposed that we take that from the $2 million furniture fund to get as much work done as we can right now while, you know, the campus is under construction. With that being said, we did some math, and being conservative on furniture, you know, selecting a premium furniture. We worked with the purchasing department on kind of some numbers they had pulled together from a couple years ago. And with the remaining funds, if we pull out the 745, it's 1.2 million, and you can outfit 73 classrooms around campus with new furniture with that money. Just to show a scale of that. I think I counted up the classrooms in G, and somebody may have to help me, but I think there's 35 classrooms in G, maybe a little less, but anyway. And the second part of the memo is to for O'Donnell Snyder. The board pre-approved $862,000 of that $1.2 million previously that was pre-approved to spend with them on some of these projects. And these are the projects. These are some of the more major renovations that were a part of that larger $2 million package. It's the admissions, advising, records renovation in A building. C building, it was the marketing suite renovation. D building, it was the art classroom, the lab renovation. H building, it was a locker room renovation, and it kind of had to go from there. N building was moving in a crime lab that got moved from D over to there, and working out, adding some offices, working out the arrangement to have another office. R building, it's the new lobby and hallway flooring. I don't know if you'll notice some of that flooring's pretty cracked up. So we replace all the lobby flooring. So at the end of the day, the whole building will have a new floor. The restroom flooring and the restroom renovation. So the restroom will get a refresh as well. H building, to do the H building restroom renovations. E building, dumpsters and mechanical yard, make that a nicer, that's kind of right in the center of campus. So in the base scope, we had a chain link fence going around there. So this is some additional to beautify that. A couple of the projects have already been complete that we had to get moving. And one was our building, the fire sprinklers that we had to put in there. We were able to renovate 2 additional restrooms in G building. The original budget had only 2 restrooms, and this was able to afford the other 2 main restrooms in the building. And then acoustical treatment in E to add that to the ceiling. So overall, the O'Donnell Snyder portion is would be $736,030 on top of their pre-approved $862. So we're requesting an addition, or to use part of that funds out of the furniture fund to O'Donnell Snyder to fund the to fund the additional $736,030.
Okay, could you go ahead and read the motion, Vice Chair Draghi?
Yes. Motion to approve $736,030 change order to O'Donnell Snyder Constructions contract to supplement the $862,653 of funding already approved by the board for the above additional projects that are outside of the bond program.
And if I can, I'm sorry.
Secretary Hardenberger. Okay, and it's seconded. The motion has been made and seconded, and we have a motion on the table. Let us go ahead and Matt, go ahead and clarify what you were going to say, and then we'll open it up to questions.
And I was just going to say, this is an absolute worst case scenario here. We're working out a few final numbers on some of these. For instance, I'm working with an asbestos company tomorrow to come out and test some walls. And we after we went through design, we thought a whole bunch of walls had to be abated. And then we found that some more may not have to be. So if we find that some don't need to be abated because they were built much more recently, this number will come down. So this is a worst case scenario.
Great, thank you. Questions, please?
Yep, Matt, I got a question. And it's connected to all of this because I see several buildings listed on this, and I know that it's necessary that we do this now. We've got the money in the contingency fund. We had a fire in the HVAC. There's been a problem. Are you guys been the ones who've been managing the HVAC renovations over at the H building?
Yes, sir, we have been.
Okay, I would just say that if is it working properly? If we went and checked every single building in that room, I know there was a fire or something of that nature, and then seems to be, I popped in the other day to say hi to somebody, and it seemed to be a huge imbalance. It never seems to have been corrected. I'm wondering if that's in the plans for all this or not.
So the fire that I'm aware of, it turned out to be something was put on a hot plate in, I think maybe the nursing room or something like that. There was a pillow or something on a hot plate. I'm not sure what happened there, but that's the fire that I'm aware of in the building. The first, what we got was it was coming out of the mechanical room. And then when it was dug in further, it was found it was something on a hot plate.
Okay, I was wondering what the imbalance in the air conditioning systems over there were the other day, if you guys wouldn't mind taking a look at that.
So the building has been balanced. When you say imbalance, are you saying that it's not getting proper airflow?
Well, I was in 2 different rooms. One was freezing, one was hot. So that was just my personal observation.
I will say we have had some issues with the HVAC controls. In H building is kind of a funny room too, because some of them the college has directed us to make them freezing. Specifically the dental lab, they have some whatever the products they have in the dental lab and some of the pharmacy rooms. So some of them in H building, they have purposely cranked them down to be freezing. I will say we have had, as we're working through this, we have had some control issues. We've had some network connectivity issues to get them running. We're every day working through those, and I feel like we're kind of on the downhill side of that right now.
Okay. All right, that's not a part of, I saw some of the other stuff in the H building, just making sure.
Anyone else?
Yes, Matt, when we looked at that memo, there were those 2 different values, the 745 and then 736. Can you explain the discrepancy in those numbers?
The 745 is out of the total 2.1 million. So there was an approved, we're going to go do these projects, a list of projects, and 11 of, I believe, the 15 were dedicated to O'Donnell Snyder. And the other ones, like for instance, AV, we hired an AV contractor directly. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I think the final cost on that was about $20,000 over the original budget. But you know, some of them are a little bit higher, some of them are a little bit lower, and you kind of hope as it all, you kind of comes out in the wash at the very end of the day. But the 745 here is the total of the additional projects, including the ones by O'Donnell Snyder and the ones by other contractors.
Okay. All right. So that's just the difference in the two is other contractors.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Crum, for clarification. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to move the question. Vice Chair Draghi? Yes?
Yes.
Did
you want me to read it again?
No,
yes.
no. We're voting on it. We're voting on it. We're voting on. I just got out of order. Sorry, guys. Okay, we're almost done. Let's go here. We're voting. Okay, so Regent Draghi just said yes, and Regent Crum just said
yes,
and Secretary Hertenberger
yes,
and Regent Marvel,
Yes.
Regent Shelton,
Yes.
Regent Starkey,
Yes.
Regent Tackard,
Yes, yes.
and Chair Sanchez said yes. That passes 8-0. And guess what, guys? We are out of here.
Hey, Belle, before
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Belle, before we go, I
Yes.
think Carl said that Wendy may have some good news to share.
Oh, okay. Wendy, are you there?
Where else would I be? I think Carl was talking about the foundation fund at that time in his report, and he might have wanted me to mention that not only did we have a very successful gala, Granting Wishes Gala, where we made over $61,000, which was more than what we made last year having an in-person event. We also have been told that, it's held, we are in, our entire portfolio at RBC has gone over the $4 million mark.
Woo! That is awesome. That is fantastic.
I hope I didn't just jinx it.
No, no. You know, we're not going to believe that way. That is fantastic. Let's all hear it for them. Woohoo! That's awesome. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Carl, for bringing it to our attention. We appreciate all the hard work the foundation does for us and for our students. I mean, they're the ones that get the benefit, and so that is awesome. So on that note, go out and find yourself something to drink. Your beverage of choice can be bubbly or non-bubbly. It could be something that puts you to sleep, whatever you choose, but go and celebrate this great institution that we all get to represent. Take care. God bless. We are adjourned. It is 8:20.
Thank you,
Adios.
Sharon.
Good night. Bye. See ya.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank
Good night.
you.